Pussy Cheek. You're listening to MRP, the Metal Robot Podcast, the podcast about all things metal and everything in between, a production of TheMetalRobot.com, created and hosted by Tom McKay. So, last episode, we talked about Twitch and how to get into it. We did that with Sunfire TV and Thomas Frank 93, which if you haven't heard that episode yet, definitely check it out after this episode. But this time out, we're talking about YouTube and how to get into it as a creator, perhaps with metal reviews or anything else that you might want to get into it for. And to help out with this, I sat down with TheMetalTris, aka Tristan, so Tristan of TheMetalTris, to talk about YouTube, our experiences with YouTube, as well as possibly sharing some tips of our experience and how it might help for you. Then after that, we talk about some metal albums, give some reviews out for Termina, Krave, and Void of Solace. And then finally, we ask the question, what have you been listening to recently? Stick around to find out what me and Collin Sterling have been listening to, and also tell you about what other people of the internet have been listening to. Without further ado, let's not waste much more time, and let's get straight into it.
You're listening to MRP, the Metal Robot Podcast.
Like I said in the intro to the podcast, last episode we talked about Twitch and how to get into it. We sat down with Sunfire TV and Thomas Frank 93 to discuss that particular topic, because many people, especially in the metal community, want to get into it, seeing people like Matt Heafy of Trivium or Herman Lee of Dragon Force getting very proficient at it. And as a result, they want to join in the fun. But maybe that's not you. Maybe you're really concerned about saying something really stupid live and getting Me Too'd on Twitter. If that's the case, then post-production might be the way you want to go, in which case YouTube might be a viable option. So how does one get into YouTube? How does one experience going on YouTube? Well, if I'm going to say right now, I could easily just do this by myself, but A, that's more boring than watching a low-tier deathcore band be the opening act. It's really boring when that happens. And B, one experience is not going to be your experience. It's possible you might have a different idea of how getting into YouTube goes, and many other people getting into YouTube have different experiences. So to help out with this topic, I'm sitting down right now with Tristan of TheMetalTris. Tris, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing good. We did have a bit of technical issues beforehand. So did you figure out what was going on there?
I'm not too sure. At the end of the day, I just restarted my computer, and I think that kind of has done the trick. So
yeah,
I'm just keeping...
Yeah, it looks like nothing else is happening here. Before we were seeing like everything was going yellow, and it was weird. It was very, very weird. But nonetheless, it looks like restarting your computer has solved the problem. Lesson learned, kids. That's the reason why IT will always tell you, have you tried turning it on and off? It's always the one people go for. But before we keep going, let's go over this question. We did get to this question at least before everything kind of went haywire. Tell me and the beautiful listeners who you are and what you do on YouTube.
Sure. So my name is Tristan Pratt, and I basically run TheMetalTris, which is my own YouTube channel. And I kind of do album reviews every week, and then interviews, normally kind of, face-to-face, in-person stuff. But obviously due to current circumstances, that hasn't kind of been the case of late. And then I've also got kind of like a couple of favorites where I usually try and focus on some more underground bands and, kind of like smaller bands that I may not necessarily have had the time to kind of fit in to my main reviews. But that's kind of the everything in a nutshell, really.
Okay. And how do you usually pick the albums you want to review for your channel?
So I guess I try and look really, really far ahead, usually sort of like 2 to 3 months, just to make sure that I've got kind of like a good amount of time. And usually, to be fair, a lot of the time it just goes by what I kind of enjoy. And, like what I'm thinking, not only I would enjoy, but also kind of my audience, I guess, as well. Because obviously you do have to kind of bear that in mind. But a lot of it is just kind of what I think would be really cool. And, if it's a band that I think deserves that kind of recognition, really, to be fair.
Okay, that's pretty fair. So do you worry about it at all? Like, because I know from my own experience doing metal reviews and stuff like that, I get a lot of emails from a lot of like PR companies and a lot of stuff like that. Do you get those emails at all by chance?
Oh yeah, dude. Like my inbox is just like flooded with 100 emails a day, and you just have to kind of like scan through and just make sure that I try and read as many as I can, and like I'm very fortunate, like bands reach out and things like that, and if it's worded nicely, and like people have like really kind of good press kits and things like that, then I'm kind of more inclined to, at the very least, like give it a look in.
I'm curious, how many times have you gotten this email? Dear media partner. Oh no. I see that. God, yeah. I see that all the time. I'm like, you don't know who I am, do you?
First name media, second partner. Yeah.
Hello, I am media partner. Yes. So you discussed how long have you been on YouTube? You said before all technical difficulties, you've been on YouTube for about 4 or 5 years. So.
Yeah, something like that. So I launched, I can't remember exactly what month it was that I launched the channel in, but it was, I think the first ever video I did was a Havoc album review. And that was back in 2016, around that sort of time. So it's been about like 5 years that I've been doing this.
Okay. Was that all like with this specific channel? Because you did mention you had a previous channel before that. Because in TheMetalTris, like the first video I could find goes all the way back to about 2017 or so. Yeah.
So before this, I kind of basically, it was like a really good friend of mine. We met up at the pub, and he was like, we should start a metal website. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds like an amazing idea. So we did that for, I think it was about like 2 years, and that was called TheMetalTris. And we kind of covered all sorts of genres, like literally anything, from like the smallest obscure band to like, really major bands, and also kind of, everything from power metal, stoner, doom, sludge, black metal, like everything you could think of. And then I kind of just, started to kind of venture into YouTube and trying that out. It was actually my wife who pretty much like started me on this path, and kind of, like she helped me in terms of like editing and things like that, and getting to grips with that sort of thing, because I'm hopeless, man. Like honestly, like normally, I didn't really sort of think about it, but then once she was kind of like, well, use Final Cut, do this sort of stuff, and it's actually quite easy when you break it down, but you just have to have that initial push.
Okay. So with that in mind, when you started actually getting into YouTube, because this is usually the beginning point for a lot of people who want to get into YouTube. When you're starting off, the big question always comes up. What do I need to start off with? Do I need to go for that high-end expensive camera, high-end microphone? I want to make it look like it's on a TV set or some shit. Is that really required? Do you think that's necessary to start off with?
I mean, I think... I can only kind of really speak from my experience personally. And, like I used a sort of okay-ish camera. I think it was like maybe 250 pounds back in 2014. So like it's pretty much obsolete at the minute, but I've been filming content on that for ages. I actually now use only my iPhone, because it like the quality is so good on that thing that that's all you need. And I've got like, like a ring light and stuff, which again, my wife got me for Christmas. So I'm kind of like, changing things, but I think quality is something that is important. And kind of, it's something that I don't know, man, like you just kind of need to like see what exactly it is you want to kind of achieve with your channel, I guess. Right. Because for me, I was just kind of like testing the water, right? Like I had no idea what I was doing. And I was just like, I guess, I didn't even have a formula to like talk about the albums. I was just like, right, okay, well, just sit me in front of a camera. And it was really weird. Like when you first start talking, direct to camera and everything, you're kind of like, this is really strange. But now it's just like second nature and like talking to another person, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say, just do it. Honestly, like I know it sounds really sort of cliche and not really all that helpful, but just kind of like just getting off your ass and doing it. That's the biggest thing, I think.
Well, first things first, filming with an iPhone, bro, same. Second, in terms of like the metal review format that you were talking about earlier, that usually ends up coming second, I find. Like for anybody watching, like usually with a lot of YouTubers, format comes second. What usually comes first is like, okay, do I have something to film with? Something to maybe light myself with? Sometimes they just skip lighting altogether. Other times, what microphone can I use? Your camera microphone usually serves pretty well. Formatting usually comes second. I know with my channel specifically, I went through many different formats for reviews before I ended up settling on the vlog style kind of thing that I'm currently doing right now. So there's no pressure to worry about format. You work that out as you go. Yeah, but you were saying the same thing. Like you were still kind of working with it yourself, and also having your wife do all the editing. Respect. That's now that I say that out loud, that sounds so bad. Anyways,
it's all good. Like she doesn't do the editing for me, but she was the one who was like, basically took me on this journey, and kind of like, when we were doing that initial Havoc video that I was mentioning, she was like, well, look, here's a really simple way to just do a cut here, and then you can kind of like put this transition in here, and then you kind of go off and, well, I went off and kind of just changed different things and sort of made it my own. But I know what you mean. Like you're always kind of trying to change things. And to be fair, I have to say I'm kind of a Luddite, because all I do is the same kind of content, like week after week after week. But it's more because it's more of it's a real passion. And I just really love talking about bands, man. Like it's really weird, and it's kind of given me a lot more than I thought it ever kind of would, which again, I know sounds cheesy. I'm coming up with all of the stereotypes here today. But
every single one of your quotes, I'm stitching on a pillow. I'm stitching all of your quotes on a pillow. but no, that's the key thing. It sounds cheesy, but it's true. That's what I tell every time someone asks me about it. It's just, look, just do it. Don't worry about the quality. Just worry about, well, the quality is important, but just do what you're passionate about. If you're passionate about top 10 videos, do that. You can be like Watch Mojo all you want, but as long as that's what you're passionate about, that's what matters. But then, of course, we get into what everyone is always worried about, and that is the YouTube algorithm. People are always trying to feed the algorithm. Do you think that's the most important thing to focus on for not just metal reviews, but in general with any YouTube video that's coming out?
I mean, I guess it sort of depends on, if you want to kind of have success, or whatever kind of success would be deemed as, because like for me, like success is maybe being able to interview one of my favorite bands or something like that. But like if you're kind of, I guess, going for higher views and things like that, then you'll probably want to kind of take the algorithm into account. And I for sure, like I've noticed like a change in how many views I'm getting at the minute. And kind of you do have to kind of pivot slightly to try and change things. Like at the minute, I'm trying to kind of make the content that I've got a little bit shorter and a bit more concise, because as I'm sure you can tell from this interview, I waffle a hell of a lot. And, like editing is a nightmare sometimes. And also because I find like sometimes I'm like, I really, like I want to say this and I want to kind of keep it in, but I want to keep things concise at the same time. But for sure, like, it could be the algorithm. It could also be the fact that, people aren't kind of watching that kind of content of mine anymore. But, I am a bit of a Luddite, and I just sort of like, I just kind of plod along and just like do my thing. But I try and kind of do different things where I can. Like I did some stuff with EMP, which was really cool. It was kind of like a metal haul video, I guess. Right. That was ages ago. But truth be told, like I think my favorite thing to do, and one of the things I miss so much because of the current situation, is actually interviewing people face to face. Like there's nothing kind of like it, to be fair.
Absolutely. I've only personally done that, I think twice on my channel. I did one with a Toronto band, Pterodactyl Problems, and another one from another Toronto band, Astroth Incarnate. But everything else I've done, like Lindsay Schoolcraft over the phone, over Skype, Sunfire TV over Zoom. Yeah. So stuff like that, like I can definitely say in person is always great, but nowadays it's more, I guess, polite to do it over Zoom, given the current world we're currently in right now. But so with that in mind, like depending on whether or not you want to feed the algorithm or not, what is usually like the best length for YouTube videos? Does length actually matter for reviews, interviews, etc.?
I guess it kind of depends, really, to be fair, because there isn't kind of like an all-knowing answer to this, because I've seen, like, let's say from the stuff that I've uploaded, I've seen long stuff do really, really well, and I've seen short stuff do really, really well. I've seen different kinds of content do better than others, and I've also, like, looked at various other channels and kind of seen how their sort of content is doing well.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, I think that, the YouTube algorithm is like the Matrix. It's always changing, and you can never really sort of like be the master of it. Or if you are going to be, it's very kind of trend led. And I am not a trend sort of led person.
To be fair, it took me months before I realized what Nyan Cat was back then. So I think you and I are in the same boat on that one. Okay, but I guess in a way, like someone could interpret that as like, well, hold on, are you sure length doesn't matter? It's like, well, no, it doesn't, because going to your point there, I've seen videos get millions of views and they're like maybe less than 10 seconds. Like I saw that there was this one video that I shared with some of my friends. It's called Dumbledore Asked Calmly. It's like I'm not sure if you've seen that one, but it's like it's just a short video, 23 seconds, I think. It's got like 23 million views, but it's in that entire video, it's entertaining to watch. It's an entertaining 23 seconds.
Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
Yes. Yeah, like I said, it's a great video, but it's also like so short. It's not like say a Watch Mojo video or something along those lines, where it's like jam packed, like 10 minutes worth of like, let's talk about number 10 for a good solid 2 minutes. And those videos are good, but they're usually a lot of times when people are focusing on the algorithm, in my opinion at least, they're not really focusing on the quality. They're more focusing on how many of these 10-minute, 20-minute videos can we get out in a week.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing is, like it depends on how much content you can get out, so like I also work as a PR, so I look after Century Media's roster and Sumerian Records' roster here in the UK. Well, like part of it, basically. It's split between our team. And, there's a lot of releases which are always coming out. So that's one of the reasons that I try and kind of plan as far ahead as possible, because then I know exactly what I need to listen to, when to kind of get in touch with the relevant PRs to make sure you get the promos and things like that, and make sure that you're kind of like on the ball with it, because you don't have time. And also, like, if you put loads of time and effort into a video, it takes a while. Like I was editing my Cannibal Corpse interview, which has gone live today. I was doing that over the weekend, and it took forever, man. Because I was doing the YouTube version, and then I had like an IGTV version as well, and just like formatting and things like that. It just takes forever.
So goddamn long.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So I guess you've got to kind of pick your battles, really, and that's one of the reasons I've done that favorites video, is because, like, if I only do one review a week, that means I've only got 4 albums that I can feature in a month. Whereas there might be some other bands which I think are just as kind of good, but they don't necessarily get that sort of time in the spotlight because I just don't have enough time. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Okay. All right. Now this next one I have listed down here. This one can actually change up depending on who you're talking to. It's the editing part. So how long does a video of yours usually take to put together in editing?
I would say anything from like an hour to maybe 2.5 hours. It depends on how kind of intricate it's going to be. So like if it's an album review, it usually takes me, so I'll like maybe I try and film sort of at the end of the day here on a Friday, which usually means like my videos will go up around sort of Saturday, Sunday. It depends on how busy my weekend is, basically. Yeah. But I usually film at about 6, and then I'm done editing, making thumbnails, all that sort of stuff by about 8:30, something like that. So it's usually around 2.5 hours. But if it's, like a really big one, like for example, like we were talking about the Watch Mojo style thing where it's like 10 different things, then that'll take, I would say probably maybe 4 or 5 hours overall. It depends on how kind of intricate you want to be with it.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how like people are always shocked. Like top 10 videos, they're easy to make. In my experience, they're not. Like they are arguably a lot harder and take a lot more time than like a typical review. Which, side note, 1 to 2.5 hours for editing. I'm jealous because I must have spent God knows how long on even a single review, like 8, 9, maybe 20 hours. I've heard people spend like 40 to 50 hours on a single video. I'm like, oh, damn. I'm hearing 1 to 2.5 hours. I'm like, Jesus, how? But
well, that's the thing, like I've been using Final Cut ever since. So it's been about like 5 years worth of using that sort of software.
Oh yeah, experience definitely comes down to it.
But I also think it's not rocket science, the kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's like without sounding like a knob, like it all I'm doing is kind of like stitching things together. So
yeah, like it really does kind of show the comparison there because arguably like your videos, they're still great, but they also don't take a lot of time to edit, arguably, because it's a lot of it is just cut here, cut there, put a video here. Whereas you go on the opposite end of the spectrum, looking at my channel, there's a lot more editing going on. There's a lot more effects, stuff like that, a lot more formatting, or even going to say something along the lines of, I don't know, like a Crash Thompson, the rock critic video, where it's like those longer form videos. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Those videos go on for so long, but there's also so much intricate cutting going on. There's a lot more effects going on, or even a Todd in the Shadows video. So much of that stuff goes on. So it really depends. Like if you're asking how long does editing take, depends on what you're kind of going for and what kind of formatting you're going for.
Exactly. It depends on the format. It depends on what the topic of the video is, what you're doing. Is it a discussion? Is it going to be kind of something that you want to sort of elaborate on? Is there going to be something? And also sometimes I think some sort of inspiration, like for example, if you think something's funny, you might come up with like a funny noise or something, and you just kind of like put that in there sometimes. But it depends on how much of that you want versus, like I like to just be sort of like Mr. Words basically, and just to like be a big nerd and kind of just keep things like nice and simple. But yeah, like one of the things that I'm trying to kind of work on is sort of talking to camera a little bit more casually, because my wife's told me that I sound like a newsreader sometimes, and I just think like sometimes it'd be good to just kind of like keep things a little bit more chill. And I do like you kind of get caught up in your own head. I don't know if it happens with you, dude, but like sometimes I'm just a bit sort of like, oh.
For me, it's always, if I don't memorize my scripts ahead of time, I'm always like stuttering. I'm always ranting on the same thing. And I'm like, wait, I gotta get back on point. Other times it's mostly just like people are just like, oh my God, your voice is like, you need to go on radio, dude. I'm like, yeah. And every single time. Actually, like no joke. Actually, I once, while I was on Sunfire stream, actually, because I put my voice on there for a little bit, all of a sudden her entire Twitch chat focused all on me. They didn't care what she was doing anymore, and it was amazing. She still tells me about it. It's like, dude, how the hell did you do that? I don't know. I wish I could tell you. But no, I definitely get that. But it's all about like making sure your personality comes through anyways. Just personality goes through. As long as that goes through, then you can say whatever the hell you want, as long as you don't get me too'd, then you're fine. You're fine at that point. But aside from that, going back to actually the scripting part, do you script your videos?
Yeah, well, so that's again, like we were talking about how you sort of change your videos up and things like that. Like before, I used to have kind of like a fairly sort of heavy script. I would imagine, because not necessarily because I kind of like I need that to sort of rely on. It's more that there's so much stuff that I want to try and get in that I know if I try and freestyle it, I won't do it as well as I've written it, if you know what I mean. So there was that kind of thing. But now I'm trying to kind of keep it a little bit looser and just kind of like have main bullet points and then just kind of just sort of freestyle it. And then sometimes you end up with gold, which is really great. And you're like, where the fuck did that come from? midway through. Am I right to swear, by the way? Is that okay?
I've been swearing this whole fucking time, so by all means. You are. How is it? You are the third person on my channel to ask that question. How the fuck? Sorry. Go on.
I blame the polite Britishness in me. Yeah. but yeah, like it is one of those things. Like, I think it just depends. You change everything depending on how you feel. And at the minute, I'm really enjoying kind of like putting some more bullet points sort of style. I think it also depends on how well you know the band. If you know the band you're talking about, or if you know the subject that you're talking about, you'd just be able to kind of like freestyle it anyway. But if you kind of, you got to kind of have a bit more of a format, that's also another thing, I guess. If you have a format, that's something that you'd want to have as more of a structure. Whereas I'm kind of like, I like to kind of do reviews almost like a bit of a story, really. So you got like a beginning, a middle, and an end. Kind of like, like the way you would write an essay or something, but just with less words. But yeah, that's kind of, I think I've gone a little bit off topic, but
no, that's great. That's great. But so basically, yeah, as long as not like full scripts, like full on like paragraphs to paragraphs to paragraphs, but you at least have an idea of where you're going with the script. You have an idea, sure. Of where you're going in the video. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, because I know some people will struggle with, I need to script everything. I script everything, because you have it right now. I'm going way off script right now. It's just start going, and it just goes nowhere. Of course, it does help when you're drinking, so I mean, I'll just, but yeah, anybody who's ever gone to a pub or bar knows exactly what I'm talking about there. But last thing about YouTube, a lot of people have a lot of problems with this particular part. Motivation. Motivation is key for this kind of thing. So when it comes to YouTube, how do you keep yourself motivated?
Yeah, that's definitely something that I've kind of struggled with in the past sometimes. I think, it can be very demotivating, like we talked about, spending all this time on video content and editing it and putting it out there. And then you're like, wow, one person watched that, wicked, and and then you look at something else, which is like, maybe, I don't know, this might sound a little bit arrogant, but like more trivial than what you think you've put out. And you're like, how the fuck has that got, all those views and all that sort of stuff. But
it's more by the books than what you would put out, essentially.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I get that. Yeah.
Sometimes it can be, it can just be a bit hard work when you're like, oh shit, I've got to turn out another video like every week and make sure that it kind of keeps happening. And I used to be really like militant with this, and I used to be like, right, 3-4 o'clock around that sort of time on a Friday, that's when I have to upload. And it was like, it just made me think like, this has gotten a bit silly. Like, I don't need to kind of stick to this rigorous schedule. Like, at the end of the day, are you doing this for yourself, or are you doing this for other people? And also the great thing about YouTube, right, is that I feel like the people who watch my channel don't care, like they're not sitting there being like, 4 o'clock on a Friday, where's that review? Like, and also people have, people have jobs, all this sort of stuff. So, I find that people watch YouTube whenever they can, whenever it's kind of convenient and easy for them.
Right.
So I don't necessarily feel that sort of stress as much.
Yeah, no one's sitting there like, it's like, okay, I'm going to get a video out today. What time? Are you going to get out at this very second? Are you going to get then? Are you going to get that? Like, no one's doing that. No. I'll be honest, I had to learn that myself. I'm like, I got to get this video out every single Friday. I'm like, I'm the only one who cares. What am I doing?
but it's easy to do, because I think you get wrapped up in your own kind of sort of busyness, and you also want to make sure that you're always churning out consistent. And I think another thing is that it's kind of been a tried and tested thing that everyone says consistent content is like really important and things like that. And there's part of me which is like, yeah, it is, but also like you need to give yourself a break. Like, if there's anything this last year's taught me, it's just like you need to know kind of when to take the foot off the gas a little bit and just kind of relax. And also I think you'll end up making better stuff for it, and just being kind of generally happier, really, to be fair. But sometimes it can be difficult when you're like, fuck man, I really don't want to record this video, or like I want to go out and have a beer with my friends, but I can't because I have to stay home and record this. It can be a little bit sort of draining, but then it's very rewarding when it goes up there and people are enjoying it. And like, I love chatting with people in the comments as well. Like, I try to the best of my ability to answer as many comments as I can, which is hard sometimes.
Well, I mean, if you're not getting like a shit ton of comments, then it's usually a lot easier. I know PewDiePie for a long time replied to every single comment that came in, but then it got so huge that it became a problem. Yeah.
I can imagine, like he's like one of the biggest YouTubers like ever, pretty much, right?
Oh, absolutely. So it's as if you have the ability to do so, definitely chat with the comments. You might get a few weird ones, but nonetheless, you still get plenty of good ones. With that said, I do have a few seconds here. Tristan, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast here. Tristan, while we got still time here, shout out everything that you're on right now, YouTube, Facebook, whatever that you want to share out.
Yeah, sure, man. So basically, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm not so great on Twitter, but Instagram, Twitter, Facebook is all TheMetalTris. I've obviously got my YouTube channel, which is called TheMetalTris. I've got some cool album reviews coming up this week, which is Cannibal Corpse, Holding Absence, and I'm going to do Gojira album reviews soon, and a couple of other things. So there's lots of cool stuff that's happening, but that's kind of the main sort of places that you'd be able to find me, to be fair.
Okay. All right. With that said, once again, Tristan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You take care, my friend, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much, man. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been really nice to like actually get to see you, and hang out, and despite all the different time zones and the yellow screen. The yellow screen.
Long live the yellow screen. Oh God. As you already know, the metal world as a whole is very, very chaotic. In terms of news, music, there's so much going on with it, especially with news. As there's a lot of stuff happening every single week, and it's really hard to tell what's important for you to know, what's important for a metalhead to know, but also what's interesting to hear about. Wildwire still has trouble dealing with this now. But what if I told you there was a way for you to hear about all the important stuff in a way that's digestible, but also entertaining? So to help with this, I've actually revived a metal series of mine on Facebook called A Very Metal Week. It's a sort of comedy metal news show that talks about various stories from the metal world every single week, or at least every week that I can. But it's back now in 2021. We had a bit of a hiatus for it, but we have finally returned. And you might be thinking, wait, where is the show? Because I have not seen it on YouTube. Well, technically you have. There are clips, but full shows actually appear only on Facebook. It is a Facebook exclusive show, and it's purely put together by just me. No one else is helping out with this. Okay, aside from the occasional help from friends for script writing, but other than that, it's fully produced in-house. No assistance from any outside sources. So with that in mind, if you want to see a metal news show that talks about the news and doesn't take it too seriously, but also acknowledges that it's worth knowing, then head on over to the Facebook page, Metal Robot Reviews on Facebook, or at The Metal Robot if you want to search that up, and hit the follow button for updates on the show. So stay tuned for that, and hope you enjoy.
You're listening to MRP, the Metal Robot Podcast.
All right, we're in the middle of the podcast now. We're at the halfway point, so how about we do some metal album reviews, as we had a couple of albums that came out last week on April 9th, as well as a request that was put in by one of you guys. So with that in mind, let's take a look at what we got.
I tell myself it isn't real. Open my eyes, but I still fail. Please wait.
Termina's Dysphoria is an intense metalcore experience that fires on all cylinders throughout. It's not just loud, it's screaming in your face to make sure you understand that the vocalist tells himself it isn't real. Well, actually, this is real. This podcast is real. It has a URL and an RSS feed, but I digress. Now, instrumentally, this album is complicated and technical in terms of the arrangement. The guitars are very blunt. They're very blunt as well as very loud, and the bass fills up a lot of the low end to be thunderous. And on top of that, the drums are also very thunderous as well, but they're very punchy. They're obviously fake, but still, it does help a lot with the feel of the album. It works to the album's advantage in this case. And during the verses, of course, it's very complicated and technical, but once the choruses come along and the vocalist starts singing his heart out, the instrumentation does pull back on intensity to allow a lot of the melody to shine through, to take some kind of control over the sound for that particular moment. Speaking of the vocals are fantastic on this album. They're great. Screams are intense, growls are thunderous, and the melodies, the singing is also very, very, very nice to listen to. Granted, the vocals and even the instrumentation is not really anything new. There's nothing we haven't heard before from bands like Architects, Fit for a King, or Reflections. It's very good. It's a very good metalcore album, but again, you can tell where its inspiration is coming from. Now, with that in mind, metalcore, the fact that it's a metalcore album may sell for some people, but that's not going to be the main selling point here. Again, this is an album that we've heard before. So in this case, while it is a great metalcore album that's going to make your inner metalcore kid go fucking apeshit, its real selling point, its biggest selling point, is going to be its star power. Nick Nocturnal, the guitarist, the instrumental guy for this album, he is already a prominent musician on YouTube, having been on YouTube for a long time, building a sizable audience, as well as being the winner of Banger TV's Shredders of Metal Season 2 a couple of years back. And Andy Zizek, I think that's how you pronounce it, also has a very sizable audience on YouTube as well. So put those two together, and you've got an album that is going to appeal to one of those two. So for an album like this, it's very clear that there aren't going to be many people who don't listen to this album and already have no idea who Nick Nocturnal is, who Andy Zizek is. People are going to know who those guys are if they're listening to this album. You're not going to find, even as time goes on, anyone who doesn't know who these guys are ahead of time. That said, in terms of metalcore, I think this is a great album to add to the collection. So if that's something you're interested in, I think it's worth checking out for a cool 13.5 out of 15.
To where I am in Purgatory.
Now, if you're looking for the polar opposite of Dysphoria, Krave Purgatory. This is a 15-minute EP that, instead of being loud, in your face, complicated, and technical, this one is heavy, straight to the point, and also not too technical. It's sort of like, the best comparison I can give is that it's like if Ozzy Osbourne fronted a stoned out Lamb of God. Kind of like that. The vocals are gritty and raw, almost punkish most of the time. And same thing goes for a lot of the instrumentation. The Lamb of God comparison really pulls through. But while Dysphoria was very polished in terms of production, this one is very gritty, very raw. There's not really a lot of polish going on, and that's the whole point. I feel like an album like this, polish would only ruin it. But at the same time, this album is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. It's not meant for everybody. Even though it does know what it's meant to do. Just get in, get out, don't overstay its welcome, don't fuck around for too long, just do what you need to do and get out. It's still not going to be for everybody. Like, this is an album that doesn't really beg for more, but it also doesn't feel very filling when you listen to it. So while it's not a bad album, in my personal opinion, it's still worth checking out for a lot of people. I can't really say that I was fully satisfied with this dark, almost sour kind of meal. But it's still not horrible. It's still not a horrible album that's going to make you cringe when you listen to it. It's just not really going to be something that I can really say, yeah, it's the best thing ever. So at the end of the day, it deserves, from me at least, a cool 10 out of 15. Not too great, but also not really terrible either.
Forever, disheartened by guilt.
So this is an interesting one. Void of Solace, Never Will Again was actually a request by the group's guitar player and vocalist, Nathan. Now, full disclosure, I actually know him on Facebook through a bunch of different musicians, a bunch of different YouTubers and stuff like that. Now, the reason why this is an interesting one is not because I know Nathan or even that this was a request. It's because this album did not come out in 2021. It came out in 2020. And the reason why that's interesting is because usually me and a lot of other critics will avoid tackling albums from previous years unless it's either so bad it needs to be learned from or so good that it needs to be praised again. But for a normal reviews, if they're not from this year, they get left behind. The reason being is if we just stopped everything we're doing to cover every single album from the previous year that we didn't get to, then this current year's music can't be talked about. We saw that in real time on this channel, actually on the Metal Robot Reviews channel, when it took 2 to 3 months to get to an actual review of a 2021 album. It took 3 months talking about 2020 stuff to get to it. To be fair, that's also my bad for bad timing, but still, the point is still the same. But nonetheless, I decided to make an exception, the only one exception for this album, because this album, not only is Nathan a friend of mine on Facebook, but also because this album, as he said, has 0 reviews on it. And I was like, that can't be possible. That can't be, well, it's possible, but we cannot let that stick around. So I decided, you know what, I'll take a look at it for the podcast. So that's what I'm going to do here. Now, at the same time, I may have run into a bit of a problem here. Arguably, this album falls out of my jurisdiction. It's an acoustic album, almost kind of like a folk rock type of album. Sometimes veers into a bit of a low hip hop type of feel, but still very much an acoustic folk album. Never Will Again is supposed to be inspired by acoustic music, but also various metal subgenres. So, you can definitely hear that when you're listening through. It has sort of that metal tinge to it, even if it is no distortion, no heavy drums, none of that. It doesn't really feel like an actual metal band, though. It's inspired, clearly, but it's not an actual metal album. There's a bit of grit in the vocal performance in some places, which does tend to help with adding that extra bit of tinge. But as a whole, this album is not one that you wreck the mosh pit to and jumping off the balcony into the mosh pit to. This is one where you just hit play on the album, pop a cold one, and sit on the porch or the balcony and just relax. That's the kind of album this is. And with that in mind, I had a surprisingly good time with this one. And I think even if you think, oh, it's acoustic, it's not real metal, I think it's still worth checking out, in my opinion. So with that in mind, I think this is worth checking out, even if it's not metal. Give this a try if you think you might get some enjoyment out of it. With a cool 12 out of 15, you really can't go wrong. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? That was a lot of fun, I'd say. But maybe you're not quite satisfied with how many reviews there were. Maybe you want to know about more albums to either check out or potentially avoid. In which case, a new episode of the 10-second Purge is up on the main YouTube channel. Now you might be thinking, hold on, what is a 10-second Purge? I've never heard anything about this. I'm a new subscriber or I'm a new viewer. What is that? Well, it's a segment on the main channel that talks about multiple different albums, many different albums in about 10 seconds or less. That is the entire show right there. And it's a fan favorite segment because there's a lot more albums than just one being talked about at once. And on this particular episode where we covered the first quarter of 2021, you can see me talk about bands such as Evanescence, Orcumentary, A Day to Remember, etc. And that episode is out on the main YouTube channel now. So you can check it out. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button if you have not done so already. With that said, let's talk about some more music.
You're listening to MRP, the Metal Robot Podcast.
All right, so earlier in the podcast, we did some reviews of specific albums, and we also, of course, plugged for the 10-second Purge, which by the time this episode comes out, the episode of 10-second Purge is also out. But now, I want to introduce a new segment to the podcast called Music Corner. That might not be the official name, but we're going to go with that for now. And to help me out with this one, we brought on the person who inspired this particular segment, Collin Sterling of Thrashers Paradise, once again on the podcast, who is currently smiling like a clown. How you doing?
I inspired this segment. Wow.
Yeah, well, because you know what inspired it, actually? You know what inspired it? It was every time you and I hang out, it's either over Zoom or in person, the question inevitably comes up, hey, what are you listening to right now? And
yes.
As a result, I'm like, you know what? That seems like a great segment for a podcast about metal. So I figured let's turn it into an actual segment. So for this segment, we're going to go into not only what you and I have been listening to recently for either for YouTube or just in general in the background, but also what the people of the internet have been listening to as well. As I started asking people on Discord, I asked people on Facebook, Twitter, I think I skipped Instagram, and I asked people, what are you listening to? So we'll get into those afterwards, but let's start off strong. Collin, what have you been listening to?
Actually, it is pretty funny. Before we started recording, I was listening to the brand new Gojira song, which came out today, conveniently enough.
Today?
It is called, Into the
I didn't know that.
Into the Storm. Yeah.
Oh, I gotta check that out after this.
Honestly, for me personally, I haven't finished it yet. 3 minutes into it, and it's a 5-minute track. So obviously, I love it already because it's 5 minutes. It's the standard. But for me, it kind of has that old school Gojira, like From Mars to Cyrus kind of feel to it.
Ooh.
But with their with the new sound, I think that makes it really good. So far, it's one of my favorite songs off the new album, which I hate saying because with each new release single they come out with, it just becomes my new favorite song from the new album.
New song. That's my favorite song. New song. That's my favorite song.
Well, it's Gojira, and
of course
they completely just went different than with Magma. I believe that was the last album.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it was officially called, and just Fortitude so far is looking like a very good contender for what could potentially be the album of the year, just for the world of metal.
Oh, you're that confident, huh?
Well, you and I both know as Gojira fans, when they bring their A game, nothing can stop them.
True. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Oh my god! So Gojira released a new song type. Really, I did not know that.
Yes.
For context, we're recording this on the 12th of April, so a couple days before this will officially go out. But yeah, I did not know. I did not know that. Honestly, I wish I knew that.
I didn't know until I went on YouTube, and it was just like, yeah, here's the new lyrical video.
YouTube.
I was just like, what the hell?
Just open up YouTube page. Everything's like calm and collected. All of a sudden, YouTube's like, new Gojira. Listen. Blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Just shaking you down like you will listen to it.
Exactly, but I do want to add this. Now, I think all of us Gojira fans can admit Magma wasn't the best. It wasn't a bad album.
I do remember actually putting that somewhere on my best of that year list because I did thoroughly enjoy it. It was a good album. It's obviously not the best Gojira album they've ever put out, but for that year, I think it really did push itself up there. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. It's not as good as From Mars to Sirius. It's not as good as
L'Enfant Sauvage. Nothing can touch L'Enfant Sauvage.
Oh, L'Enfant Sauvage is so good.
Nothing can touch.
It's amazing.
Right?
It's so good.
But
I just creamed myself.
I was adding it like. Well, two things. One, this was the album that introduced me to Gojira, and I think that that's kind of what this album is. This is the album you want to give to a friend to get into Gojira. And the second thing I want to say is, if a song off of this album can be nominated for the Grammys Only Metal Award, then just imagine what this album can do.
Oof.
Fortitude, which is coming out sometime this month. I forget the official date, but I know it's out this month, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I think Tristan may have said when I was talking with him that it's coming out 16th, 23rd, 30th. To be fair, that's all the Fridays coming up, but
yeah,
so I don't know for sure, but okay, so Gojira, yes, I don't know. I have to look it up afterwards. But other than that, what else have you been listening to?
Well, I did read the review about this band I got you into. It was Cathartic Demise's debut full length In Absence, which came out last Friday, which was April 10th. If my math, no, 9th, April 9th. I corrected myself because math is strong skilled. And to me, that was just a stellar album. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was a truly stellar full length.
I was pleasantly surprised by it. To be quite honest, it was pretty good.
I wasn't expecting anything less from them. Like, they always bring it, and this was a great album. Like, for me now, I have because I do my end of the year awards, and album of the year to me, to heart, is the most important one of the year.
It always is.
Because that's the first award it's the first award we had. It's the first award we introduced to everyone, and I finally, and with the release of Cathartic Demise's In Absence, I now have my, who's going to be above Cathartic and who's going to be below Cathartic.
Cathartic is the standard now.
That's what the album... Yeah, Cathartic is the standard so far for metal, independent, unsigned Canadian metal albums for the year 2021. And as I say that, I also want to talk about this other album I recently did a review for. Now, as some of the viewers may know of Thrashers Paradise, we don't do many reviews, but
No.
this album in particular, when I heard it, I had to do a review for it. I'm talking about Ashimic's self-titled release. It's 4 tracks, and if you like doom, black metal, and death, you're going to love this album. It's truly stellar. I recommend it to anyone. It's a great album, even to get someone into the heavier stuff, just because I could lay down and take a nap to it. That's how that's how much I like the album.
That is the gold standard for, like, that's the kind of thing that I think many non-metalheads can take a look at and they're like terrified because how the hell? Because they're listening to that, they're scared. Now they're looking at you and just like,
yeah.
This is nice.
Oh no, it was funny. For my entire life, I had issues napping. I could never nap, but I was in the backseat of my dad's car one day. We were driving to Kitchener, I think, and I wanted to take a nap. And I just put on Tomb of the Mutilated by Cannibal Corpse, and I just fell right to sleep.
Oh.
I don't know what that says about me as a person, but as a metalhead, I think that just proves I like death metal.
I think it proves that we're just fucked in the head, but no, but I know the feeling because back in 2016, an album from Fallujah came out, Dreamless, and I was like, I said in the best of the year list that this is an album that helps me fall asleep because it's like it's so ethereal, it's so like otherworldly while also still being fucking in your face death metal, but no, like that. The same can be said for nowadays, at least almost every metal band I come up with, because I don't know what it is. Either I'm used to death metal or I really need sleep. Either one either one works.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay. All right. So, is there anything else that you wanted to shout out, or
yes, because you told me about this particular album, and I got a chance to listen to it while I was, perfecting my brand new room, as you could see in this Zoom call, where you definitely have to come over and see one day.
Absolutely.
I am, of course, talking about Epica's Omega, and I just gotta say, you were completely right. It is a stellar album. It's really good.
It's really good. And for those who are listening to the last podcast all the way through, there was a review I did for that episode where I talked about Epica's Omega, and yeah, it was definitely worth that rating I give it. If you haven't seen it yet or you haven't heard it, go check it out on the podcast. But yeah, no, so I got you into it.
Yeah, no, but the only difference is I'm not obsessed with Code of Life. I'm actually obsessed with Kingdom of Heaven Part 3.
Oh, yes.
I saw one for me.
I saw the track listing. I'm like, I know Part 2 from the Quantum Enigma from like a couple albums ago. Yeah. The first Kingdom of Heaven, I think, came out with the one before that. I don't remember the name of that one, but something about the Indifferent. But no, like Kingdom of Heaven, I was like, Part 3? Oh, we're into getting good to get some fun stuff here, aren't we?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I was not disappointed. I was kind of shocked it wasn't the closing track, because that's usually something they go for. It's like the longer songs would be the closing track. But still, even then, I was not disappointed. The way they close that album, oh, so good.
Oh yeah.
So
great way to end. Great way to kind of get ready for the end of the album, I would say. But no, that's all I've been listening to. But Tom, I now gotta ask you.
Okay.
What have you been listening to?
Ooh, okay. So mostly, once again, like the same answer I usually give is stuff for reviews. So I've been listening to a lot of bands I've listened to. So I did the review for Cathartic Demise, obviously. I think I gave that a pretty good review. McKay, I definitely gave that a good review. I listened to an album, sort of like a progressive thrash metal type of album by Bushido Code called The Ronin. That's coming out actually this coming Friday, and I'm doing a review for that. So I don't want to give away my thoughts exactly, but what I will say is that if you are into thrash, it's going to be your thing. I'm looking directly at Collin when I say that. If you're into thrash, it might be your thing. Yeah. Let's see. There's also Achiaville, who has an album coming out this next Friday called Vai Victus. It's a female-fronted death metal band from France.
Oh, you had me at France and female-fronted.
Oh, it's actually, again, without giving away too many thoughts, listen to the song Frozen Beauties, and you've got exactly, you could tell exactly what you might be getting into. It's one of those kind of, it's one of those kind of bands where you're blown away from that first track. I haven't even heard the album yet for the review, but when I actually sit down and listen to it, I'm expecting nothing less than stellar. So I can't wait for that.
The only female-fronted French death metal, or I guess power kind of band I know they are called A Famer.
Mm-hmm.
And I only heard of them because I saw them with Ailstorm, of all bands, when they came to Toronto back in 2019, the year where we could still go to shows.
Oh yeah, remember concerts? Those were fun.
Remember getting beer spilled on you?
remember falling in the pit and thinking you fell and spilled beer, but now you're not so sure anymore? Those are fun times. You're saying to be like, no, I don't remember that. I think that's just you, pal.
Oh, I do remember. Are you kidding me? I remember those days. Remember the girl that would be in front of you and you'd be like, what is she doing? And is she single? Questions. You never know.
Are you talking about my experience in the Lindsay Schoolcraft concert? Because I think yeah. No joke. I think everybody after the show was like, dude, I think she was on PCP. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't have said that while you were drinking, but well, actually, while we're at
it's only Tim Hortons.
Okay, so you're drinking. Yeah, you work tonight, right? That's why you're not drinking alcohol.
At the Candy Factory.
Nice. That's why you're not drinking alcohol. Thankfully, I'm good for that. I'm drinking Trooper beer out of a tin mug.
Ooh.
Because Trooper and
your
also
Metal Robot review. I know. I got you into that one. I can proudly say I got you into that.
Trooper,
beer.
yes, you did, sir. Yes, you did. There's still you also have some other beers from the last time you came over.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah, I had.
Oh yeah,
we downed. What was that one beer actually? That we downed.
That Mexican beer.
Yeah, what's it called again?
That big. I forget, but it was really good.
Oh yeah, I saw the bottles, but there's no label on it. I'll have to look for it. But yeah, no, that was we downed that. I was like, I have to work the next morning. I feel great. No, but okay, but yeah. Aside from that, an album I listened to, which I actually talked about in this particular in this podcast, Termina. You ever heard of Nick Nocturnal on YouTube?
Name sounds familiar.
He's a guitar player on YouTube. He released a modern metal.
Is he the one that Is he the one that doesn't show his face?
That's the do. No, Nick Nocturnal. Right. He's actually a Toronto-based guitar player on YouTube. He's been getting a huge, quite a big following for over the years, doing covers like the day of the song's release, because he learns everything by ear. So he'll learn it like within an hour, and then within like maybe 3 hours he'll post the cover. But no, he put out a modern metalcore album on Friday, on the 9th, with another person, I think from Toronto. I don't know where the singer's from, but I listened to that and I did a review about it early in the podcast, which is like, it was pretty good. Nothing really new, but it's good. Mm-hmm. And one band I just found recently that I have to tell you about, a band called Wintersia. I don't know how they're pronounced, but it's Wintersia. It's another female-fronted band, like sort of blackened melodic death metal, melodic kind of combination of stuff and things. It's weird, but I listened to, what was the song I listened to? I'll have to find it again, but it was a song I listened to, and it was in my YouTube recommended, and as soon as I listened to it, I was like, holy shit, Illuminated. It's called Illuminated. I listened to it and I was like, holy crap, this is actually really good. I was not expecting it to be this good. What the hell? Especially as the song went on, it starts off with mostly like atmospheric cleans with like kind of blackened metal instrumentation in the background, standard beats, blast beats sometimes. But then she breaks out her growls and I'm like, I'm in love.
Yes, of course.
Of course.
We have the same things, the same values in women. We want them to drink beer and to scream like there is no tomorrow.
What?
Not horror scream, but death metal scream.
Yeah. The question always comes up. It's like, I'm sorry. Remind me again. Why did you start dating her again? The reason why? That's why. That's always the reason why. Here, I'm actually going to post the link to the, because I just found the song on YouTube. I'll post it in the chat here for you to check out later. But no, like that's what I've been listening to recent. I posted in the Zoom chat. So that's what.
Yes,
that's what
thank you.
No problem. So that's what I've been listening to recently. But obviously, that's just the two of us. What has other people been listening to? What have other people been listening to? So, well, thankfully, I did my work over the weekend, and I went on social media. I went on Facebook, Twitter, Discord, on various Discord servers, including the Metal Robot Discord server, which, if you have not joined yet, definitely do so. It's a lot. We're just getting some more people in there now, and we're having a lot of fun there. But nonetheless,
Yeah.
I started asking around, and a lot of different suggestions came up. I got a lot of different responses in terms of like both in metal, but also a lot of them outside of metal too, which I thought was very interesting because these are people who I'm guessing don't know who the hell I am. I'm getting people saying, Bone Thugs and Harmony. Someone posted like a trance weird kind of thing, dubstep thing. I don't know what it is, but it was weird. There was also someone posted a mixtape.
I get that.
Someone posted like a mixtape. Again, I don't know where most of these people are coming from. I have no clue.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you because I got the radio show. I got them on Slick Lily Radio Monday nights from 11 to 1 Eastern, and then 101.5 The Hawk Tuesday nights from 9:30 to midnight. And I'm starting to get random emails from bands. Like I got this Dutch metal band called Beyond the Pale. Not the Machine Head song. That's the actual name of the band. And they're singing in Dutch. And I'm like, you know what? It's metal. Okay. Then this skater punk band just emails me like, hey, play our song. It's just like, no.
Dude, no.
I'm not even going to respond to you. Just no.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I'm someone who doesn't just listen to metal. I listen to music outside of it too. But at the same time, I'm like, you're asking for you're asking for your punk band, your pop punk band, skater punk band, sometimes pop artist to be reviewed on a metal show. Did you even take a look at any of our content? What are you doing? As soon as I see that, I'm like, it's like you didn't take a look at any of our stuff. You just found our email somewhere on the internet.
Yeah.
You know that we're in the media or something like that, and you're like, send it out there. Just hit check marks, whatever you gotta do, just send it out. It's the same thing when you get like
I don't mind
dear
it.
media partner.
Yeah, no, and even my buddy, he goes, hey man, will you and like your stepdad review this rap song I did? It's like, buddy,
you're not gonna get a good review on that one.
You really don't want, and I love the guy, but it's like,
it's like I can't
this
give
isn't the place that we would do that.
Yeah, no. Even then, it's like even that I see people get those. I'm like, look, that's great. You want to review, but I'm also like, that's out of my jurisdiction. Not just because I'm dedicated to metal or anything. That's because even though metal's not the only genre I listen to, that's like the bulk of my music knowledge. So if you ask me to review a rap album, you're not going to get a very good review out of that. Not saying it's going to be bad, but it's going to be like one of those things where it's like, I don't know a damn thing about what I'm listening to right now. I don't know how to go about this. I don't know any comparisons or anything like that. I have no knowledge of your style or anything related to that. But no, aside from those, I did get a lot of mostly metal responses. Like someone, just pulling up on Twitter here, someone said, Era, Smile, Empty Soul, the newest Five Finger Death Punch album, Sabaton, and
They released another album.
8. It was from last year.
Oh, that one. Oh.
No, yeah.
I haven't even listened to it. I don't like them.
They used to be good. They used to be good, semi-decent. They used to be decent, but now I'm not.
I never could get into Five Finger Death Punch.
Their debut album as a group was like The Way of the Fist. That was not that bad. That's arguably, but it's not great, but it's arguably the best that they've ever been.
They're a porno grind band? With an album like The Way of the Fist, they better be a porno grind band.
No.
Oh, come on.
Let's see. The guy also said Sabaton, and his response
Okay.
was, "I'm all over the map. I'm all over the map," which that's fair.
Yeah.
That's pretty
There's nothing
fair.
wrong with that. I haven't heard the new Sabbath song single yet.
Mhm.
But I have heard the one previous to that. That one wasn't bad.
No, of course not. Of course not. Let's see.
But
Who?
see, Sabaton has, for me, Sabaton's going to have this issue now because Great
Mhm.
War was an amazing album. So how do you top Great War? Like,
You don't.
this
I don't
album,
think you do.
I think
Well, we're
a
gonna
lot
see.
of people are going to write off this album because of that. And it sucks because Sabaton's a good band. They've worked very hard to get to where they are now. But, you know, I'm not saying this album's going to be completely garbage,
No,
but
of course not,
I
of
don't
course
think I don't think a lot of people are going to give it the proper respect that it's going to get because of, well, after Great War.
Mhm.
Like, you know what I mean?
Of course. Let's see. Let's take a look at the other replies. So still on Twitter, I got someone saying the new Ghostbound EP. I know what they're talking about too. I've heard it, at least
I
bits
have
and
not
pieces.
heard of that band. It sounds interesting. What is
It's
it?
actually it's to describe. I've only listened to it once, so I can't really give a good description of it. But if I just pull it back up super quick here, it was actually not that. It's sort of like a. Oh, actually, no. I did write my thoughts down for the upcoming 10 or the out now 10-second purge, depending on when you're listening to this podcast. You're pumped.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it
you
was.
know I love the Purge.
Oh, the Purge is great. The Purge is great. Let me see if I can find it. Mount. Okay. It was very. Oh yeah, it gave me some weird vibes because it was very melancholic, but also very bright at the same time.
Oh,
I was very confused. How do you go melancholic and yet so happy, cheery at the same time? That's a hard thing to pull off, but I think these guys did a pretty good job, seeing as I gave it like a 13.5 out of 15. But
oh wow.
it's not bad actually. So yeah, that was pretty
Check
good.
it out.
Yeah, I listened to it at least once. Let's see. Someone said Andy Dowling, who I know on Twitter. It's great. He's a great dude. And
Okay.
oh, of course, my buddy Corey said Avenged Sevenfold, which of course I got to give you that one. I love Avenged Sevenfold too.
Did they release something new?
No, but I think they're working on something new. The last album they put
Oh,
out.
okay.
Yeah, they are working on something new.
Was
as
it
far
the
as I know.
stage?
The last one was a stage. Yeah,
Wow. And that was what, 2017?
that was 2016. 2016.
2016.
It's
Holy
been a
shit.
it's been a bit. Yeah. Well, to be fair, Epica
Wow.
also took their sweet ass time to get a new one out. Like the.
But
album
that's
before-
Epica.
True.
Epica's, they're symphonic. Like, they need to take
You
their
need
time.
as much time as possible with that one. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. That's all. Some of the responses I got from Twitter. There was some people on Discord actually. Someone said Static X, Rammstein, Eastbreak.
Really? Static X. Okay.
Yeah. Eastbreaker, I think. I don't know how to pronounce that. Three Teeth, Gemini Syndrome. That was what one person said.
Okay. Gemini Syndrome. I've heard of that band.
Oh, Gemini, that's it. They're great. I'm honestly, I can't wait for the next album to come out when they finally get around to it. They released a single not too long ago. Have you actually you've heard the name? Have you heard any of their stuff before?
I have. I haven't heard it for a while.
I
but
still
I
spin
have heard of them, and I
Yeah.
have heard their stuff.
Yeah, for those who don't know, they're like a sort of second wave new metal kind of band, but the vocalist
Yeah.
was recently with God, what is that band's name? They're like a rap metal kind of band. I can't remember where
Oh,
he's.
Body Count.
No, not Body Count. OTEP.
Limp Bizkit.
OTEP. No,
OTEP.
fuck, not Limp Bizkit. No.
Hey, they're in the house, y'all. You kidding me? First gang in the metal. Besides Trivium, it was Limp Bizkit all the way.
Really? Some people. That's funny because
Yeah.
many people give different responses. For me, it was Avenged Sevenfold. Other people it was Limp Bizkit. Some people Linkin Park.
Nope. For me, it was the first metal song that really got me into metal was Trivium's "Silence in the Snow." And I know that album isn't. Oh yeah, see right there, that album
Nope.
wasn't really the.
No.
But
I love
I loved
Silence
it.
in the. I love Silence in the Snow. I do understand what people's gripes about it, but I have the physical copy of that fucking CD. There's no problems here.
I think I still have it, or I gave it to my brother, but it's still in my house. Like, it's an
Yeah.
album that got me into metal, and but no, Limp, like, because of course I was going through the new metal phase in high school, and again, this is 2015, 2016, so going through that new metal phase, it was just like, what the hell?
Yeah, true.
And I was just like, Limp Bizkit, bitch! Woo!
Mudfin!
Yeah,
yes.
dig!
Oh yeah, exactly. Oh, how the mighty grow. Anyways, but I got some other responses too. Going through various Discord servers. Cannibal Corpse, of course. There was Brockhampton. I don't know Brockhampton, to be quite honest. I'll have to look him up. But this person who, if they're listening to Cannibal Corpse at the same time, like, you can't really judge their judgment, right?
No. Oh, I got a good Cannibal Corpse story quickly, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So you know how the new album's coming out, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and you know how they came out with 2 different album covers for it. The one you can't sell in stores one, and the one you can kind of get away with in stores.
As you do.
So my dad had no idea about Cannibal Corpse's, very beautiful history of album art covers.
Really?
So, well, he's not a metalhead. He's into country. He's into what he listens to,
Wait, you're talking about your
and
dad or
he
your
kind of
stepdad?
listens to some of the metal.
Your dad
No,
or
my
your
dad,
stepdad?
my actual dad.
Oh, okay. I'm
No,
about to say,
my actual dad. My actual.
Yeah, I was about to say, your stepdad's into metal, isn't he? I could have sworn
No,
he was.
he's more into like punk rock. Like, he likes it, but he's not like my actual physical dad has gotten it. Like, he appreciates metal now.
Okay.
Like, he likes the Dream Theater, the Nightwish, the Epic. The bands you can understand to a certain point. But no, I'm telling him about that. He's just like, oh, how bad are Cannibal Corpse album covers? I go, here's the
You got a moment. Sit down.
one that they can sell in stores. And I started showing him all the covers, and he's just like, what the fuck am I looking at?
I wish you got that on camera. I would love to have seen that.
Oh,
Actually,
me too.
That's actually, you know what? That's a video idea. I'm counting it. I'm taking that video idea.
Parents react to Cannibal Corpse covers.
Yes! Yes! Oh my god.
Whoever does it first wins points.
What else was there? Genghis Tron. I actually listened to that for the 10-second purge as well. They're like, oh, it's weird. It's like, think about whenever you hear the name Genghis Tron, you kind of get an idea right there. But it's kind of like, think metal, but Tron, I guess. I don't know. Like, what's the kind of soundscape you think of when you think of Tron?
Like, when I hear Tron, I think of the movie Tron.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. So like, that's like most likely like probably like kind of cyberpunky, kind of digital EDM kind of thing. Combine metal with that.
Yeah,
that was Genghis Tron. What else? Some people just gave genre names here. So someone said lots of post-punk from Eastern Europe, post-punk again, dark wave, pop, industrial.
That is surprisingly really popular, post-punk.
Post-punk, yeah. I've seen, because I know, what was it? Pagefire, they did a video on post-punk.
The Pagefire did their how to make post-punk.
Yeah.
And Russians just have a weird obsession with it.
True. Okay, another person said post-punk, deathcore, black and death metal, a bit of metalcore, some rap and hip-hop. That was a hell of a term right there. You're like, deathcore, black and death metal, metalcore, rap and hip-hop.
Hip-hop!
Someone said like ska, screamo rap. Ska's good. They said screamo rap too, which I'm sorry, I'm going to have to dock you points for that one. Voca metal and rage.
Voca metal.
I've never heard that one before, honestly.
What is Voca metal?
I have no idea. I have to look it up afterwards.
I think we have to make a YouTube video about us reviewing Voca metal.
We got to react to Voca metal.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, people have been asking for like a follow up to the Crunkcore video, what I did like a couple years back. I think, you know what? No.
Oh
Voca
God,
metal's next.
yes.
Voca metal's next.
Yeah.
And
I'm holding you to it.
And finally, someone said Queen. Also, they said Hawken, which I actually have shown you already. Hawken, they're like the prog metal band.
Hawken, yes.
Yeah.
They made your top 10 list last year.
Yeah. So Hawken and some Wolfgang Van Halen. So Eddie Van Halen's son.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. I actually heard
Rip Eddie.
Rip Eddie. I heard some of Wolfgang's stuff actually. I was like, as soon as because one of the people I watched on Twitch was playing that, and I was like, that sounds really good. Who is this guy again? Oh, that's what music he's making. Oh, I knew he's making music. I didn't know he was making something like it's like a combination of like hard rock and stoner metal kind of thing. It's like a weird it's kind of like bluesy hard rock kind of thing, but it's like got a stoner metal edge to it. Think like Macedon if they were more blues.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah,
I'd listen to it.
Yeah, and then he also said John Petrucci's solo stuff. So you got.
I got the album saved in my Spotify. I haven't listened to it yet.
I listened to it for 10-second Purge not too long ago. It's pretty good. It's very good. Yeah,
it's Petrucci.
It's Yes, exactly. I did so. Actually, there was one I saved specifically because I thought that was like the weirdest suggestion ever. I asked another person on Discord, specifically Pagefire's Discord, actually, and the guy said he's like, I want to post it here, but I don't know if I'd be allowed to. I'm like, is it bad? He's like, depends on your definition. I'm like, well, what are they called? They're called below ground, I believe he said. So let me if I can pull that back up. He said it was like I took a look at that. I looked it up afterwards, and I was like, okay, I see why you didn't want to immediately show that, because if I just quickly look that up again here, it. Are
you gonna share screen so I can see it?
Yes, I absolutely am going to share screen, and because it's absolutely phenomenal here. Hold up, let's share a screen here. The part where I struggled to get this shit working is going to be cut out. Don't worry. So as far as people are concerned, we got this almost instantaneously because we're professionals.
Yes, we are highly professional gentlemen.
We are professional gentlemen who can internet. All right. So below ground. Here's what happened when I looked him up. Here, these are the first ones. So the FBI took shooter away. Fuck bedroom punk. Let's start over again. That's not the right one. The last one, I want to stop breathing. Substance abuse. Mass shooter. Fuck off, you growing. I'm not saying that one. You're a pedophile. Don't bring a skateboard to a gunfight. And that is just. That's all. That's everything else. As far as I can tell, is like people also watched. I'm like, I'm not diving into that part of YouTube. Fuck, nope. But
so wait, what kind of band is this? Is it like a metal band?
According to the guy who said it, it's a incel core and Inno 10 incel.
What the hell is incel core?
I don't know. I'm scared.
Pagefire has some interesting people, man.
Shout out to Pagefire, by the way.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for Funeral Doom.
Funeral Doom, yes. But that was my personal favorite one. I was like, oh my god, if only I gotta show Collin this one.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. That was just
yeah. So that was so anyways, that was what people were listening to.
That's Music Corner this week.
That was Music Corner. Thank you. What music are you listening to? Be sure to let me know on social media at The Metal Robot on Facebook and Twitter, at the Metal Robot on Instagram. You can also join the Metal Robot Discord server. Link is in the podcast to join and let us know. And with that said, Collin, where can people find you? As if you haven't already said that multiple times throughout the entirety of your times on the podcast. Let's do one more time let's do one time for old time's sake, huh?
I am part of Thrashers Paradise. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. We're at 370 right now, and I would like to keep it growing so I could be 100 more above Tom. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, Thrashers Paradise. You can follow me on Instagram personally at @thesterlings_paradise, because why the hell not?
Exactly.
Just why not?
Why the hell not is the way of life. Right.
And when this shouldn't be, now this is coming out before the 16th, right?
It's coming out on the 14th, is scheduled.
Okay, and in 2 days, I'm going to be uploading a brand new interview with the first ever French band we had the pleasure of having on, Pathfinders, to talk about their debut album.
Hell yeah. All right, Collin, once again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And hopefully people enjoy the segment enough that we bring it back for another one.
Yes.
Who knows? We'll see if Music Corner remains the same. If it is, I think we will be good with it. If not, I'll probably have come up with a better name. You can judge me on that when that comes out. But anyways, thank you so much once again, Collin, for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. I look forward to the next time.
You just listened to MRP, the Metal Robot Podcast.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. You can check us out on the internet, YouTube, Metal Robot Reviews, Facebook and Twitter at The Metal Robot, and Instagram at The.MetalRobot. You can also check out everything we do on TheMetalRobot.com for videos, reviews, press, and so much more. I'm Tom McKay. Thank you so much for listening. Click subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the mosh pit next time. Have a good night.